Welcome to Microsoft Excel 2010, Assignment 2 with Megan Reese. In this assignment, we're going to be learning very simple math functions that, although they are simple, are used very often in very many different ways in Excel. And it's important that you build a strong foundation so that you can do the harder things later. You're going to learn to use Excel as a simple calculator to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. You will then be able to use it algebraically, which we will discuss later. You will also learn to use AutoSum and autofill. Then you will learn some basic functions such as max, min, count, sum, and average. Finally, you will learn how to use multiple sheets, format cells, and change decimals. Let's go ahead and get started. So to begin, understand that Excel is a giant calculator. In fact, sometimes when I need to add something together or whatever, I use Excel rather than a calculator because I can see what I'm doing and it's easier for me. So if I type in a couple of numbers here, I'm just going to randomly pick a couple, okay? I can do a math problem. Now if I type in 45 plus 78, Excel's not going to catch on that that's a math problem. You have to tell it equal sign. When I type an equal sign, that's a symbol to Excel saying, hey, this is a math problem. 45 plus 78. And it will give me my answer, 123. When I click on the 123, I look up here in my formula bar and it shows me the math problem. So that's great. Good to know that you can do that. That may come in handy, but it's not the most wise way to do it. There's a much quicker way, and we're going to do it algebraically. Now I know that word is a little bit scary, but it just means that we are going to use variables. So we're going to click on equals again, type in equals, but I'm going to click on the 45, do the plus sign, and click on the 78. Now I get the exact same answer, but it's not the same problem. The first problem was 45 plus 78. This problem is E6 plus F6. They're variables, which means that they can change. So if 78, if I change that to an 80, watch what happens to my total. Okay, my total will change as well. Now if I just did equals 6 plus 10, they're not connected in any way. They have nothing to do with each other. So you want to make sure that you do it algebraically because it makes it easier to change it. It also makes it easier to autofill. Okay, so I've done E6 plus F6, and I'm going to autofill this. We learned this in assignment 1, where I put my cursor on this corner. This is called a fill handle, and I drag it down. And you'll notice it did the math for the other two. It actually knows it needs to rewrite the math problem. So E6 plus F6, E7 plus F7, E8 plus F8. It rewrites the equation for you. Now, of course, this is true if we want to do different kinds of math, like equals E6 minus F6. Okay, it's going to do, and yes, it will do negatives and everything. Okay, or equals E6 times F6. So you'll notice when I do times, I click on the little star. Easiest way to use that is on your 10 key on your keyboard. Or I can do equals E6 divided by, which is the forward slash, F6, and it will do divide. And I can pull this down and it will rewrite the equation. Doesn't matter whether it's multiply, divide, add, subtract. So that's how you do a simple math problem algebraically. I've typed some new numbers in here, and we're going to try some different functions. First of all, let's add them together. Now, if we did the same thing we did just a minute ago, and we could do equals this plus this plus this plus this, but that's kind of ridiculous and could take forever. What if you have an entire, you know, that 10,000 cells full of information? You don't want to have to do that. So we're going to do a sum. So I'm going to highlight all the numbers I want to add together. The answer is always going to appear at the bottom, and I'm going to go over here to AutoSum and choose Sum, and it adds it together for me. Very simple. Now I could do the same thing. If I don't do just click on Sum, I can also pull down the arrow and choose Average, and now it gives me the average. I could also do Max, which tells me the highest number in that list of numbers. Another one could be Min, which tells me the lowest number in that list of numbers. The last one is called Count, and that just counts how many numbers that there are. So in your assignment, you'll be required to know all of those functions. Now going back to the average, I've got this 15.44444, and I really don't want to have that many decimal places. So I'm going to right-click and choose Format Cells. Now there is a lot of stuff in Format Cells, and we'll use a lot of it, but today we're just going to start with something small. So when we get here, we're going to go to Number and choose Number and change the decimal places to whatever we want it to be. Right now it's actually set to like 5 or something. So we could keep it at 2. I'm going to move mine to 1, and then I get 15.4. If maybe I don't even want that, I don't want any decimals at all, I could just change it to 0 and it stays at 15. Now there is another way to do functions, and I want to make sure we cover those because sometimes there'll be situations where just using this up here isn't going to work. This is only if you're highlighting numbers that are all next to each other and there's no cells that need to be skipped. So I just want to do this. Well, what if I want my answer to be here? So let's say I come down here and I say, okay, I want to know what the max is, and I get my answer. But when I go to get my min, I don't want to include max as part of my min. Like especially when I do my average, it probably won't affect my minimum, but I don't want it to be part of my average. So for both of these, I'm going to do equals min. That's the shortcut. You can see all these other ones. These are all different functions you can do. There's a billion of them. We're just doing the basic ones. Open parenthesis, and then I highlight all the numbers I want, excluding my max, and press enter. Okay. Same thing with average. I can type the word average, open parentheses, highlight the numbers I want, excluding again these two numbers, so that I get the right answer. If I didn't do that, if I went down here and highlighted all of them, I did average, I get a different answer. Okay, so it's very important that you know how to do it both ways, either through the shortcut up here or using the function itself with the equals and then the function listed, whatever it happens to be. The only other thing you need to know for this assignment is how to change sheets. There are lots of different sheets down here, and so sometimes you'll have information in sheet 1, information in sheet 2. You can add sheets, you can delete sheets, you can rename them. You can change what color they are. You can copy them. I do that all the time. Okay, so those are all different things you can do, and it's very nice. Like for me, I would have my first period class list here, and second period class, and third period class, and that way it's still one document, but I have different information that goes within the same heading. So in assignment 2, you will be required to use different sheets to get further information. So that concludes the instruction for assignment 2. Good luck, and we'll see you for the next assignment.